I've covered a lot of Alice in Wonderland movies. I did a whole video covering the ones I had seen over the years and generally gave my perspective of the story and its impact on pop culture and the way filmmakers decided to adapt it to the silver screen. I've talked about so many Alice movies that I basically covered all Alice media in history. Yeah, basically covered all of it. Except this one, called Alice in Terrorland, a dark psychological horror film. Oh, and wouldn't you know it, it's about that time for some spooky movies. The movie follows a girl named Alice, of course, who ends up relocated to her grandma's house after a fire kills her parents. Isn't that the plot to American McGee's Alice? Instead of an old British insane asylum, though, Alice is forced to live in a dilapidated old manor called Wonderland.
Well, it was said that Lewis Carroll lived here in the early 1800s, and this was supposed to have inspired him.
Oh, so a house is how Carroll got his inspiration. I would have guessed it was laudanum, but sure. At this point, it's become obvious that the movie isn't gonna be a scary retelling of Alice in Wonderland, because the book exists in this universe. And the connection between Alice in this movie and the character in the book is because her parents named her after her.
Aren't you familiar with the book? You should be. You were named after it.
Book?
The Adventures of Alice in Wonderland, Lewis Carroll.
I saw the movie, but I've never read the book.
Which I'm gonna call shenanigans on. Her parents named her after a character in a book, but never bothered to read her the damn book. Like, in which movie did she see? Because, as we all know, there are quite a few she could be referring to. Alice suddenly falls ill and her grandma reads the stories to her while she's recovering in bed. Oh yeah, read Alice in Wonderland to someone suffering from a fever. Yeah, that'll end well. And sure enough, Alice begins having fever dreams, loosely related to the story. And I mean loosely. Unfortunately, most of it is just random people in cheap costumes trying to act creepy. Which is really disappointing because a horror movie based on Alice in Wonderland, you'd expect there to be just insane costume and makeup. But as far as I can tell, even the porn spoof put more effort into its character designs.
I had a nightmare.
Oh, you poor lamb.
It was just like the book.
Yeah, just like in the book. You know, when a dude in a craft store mask murdered children.
Tweedledum and Tweedledee agreed to have a battle.
Boy, it's after the rabbit, but Grandma is suddenly at the Tweedledee and Tweedledum poem. And then after that...
The only things in the kitchen that did not sneeze were the cook and a large cat which was sitting on the hearth and grinning from ear to ear.
The Cheshire Cat. Somehow she jumped to Through the Looking Glass and then went back to Alice in Wonderland. Maybe it's meant to paint a disorienting atmosphere. Time is all screwed up and the sequence of events are all over the place. But my working theory is they're going with a film adaptation sequence of events. Most of the Alice in Wonderland films liked including Dee and Dumb, even though they aren't part of that book. But that still doesn't make sense because they're reading excerpts straight from the book, so they must have known they weren't following the events of the book. Okay, new working theory, they figured no one would give a shit. Which is fair. I'm a bit neurotic when it comes to these things, apparently. During these fever dreams, the freaks of Wonderland are dropping hints to Alice that the Red Queen is up to some nefarious BS. Except for the walrus bit, which is, incidentally, the only fever dream that attempts to tell a story. These two girls, who are twins, so you can guess who they're supposed to represent, tell Alice about a murderer named the Walrus.
Why did they call him the Walrus?
That's what they called him at school. The bullies. The ones he said drove him to it. He grew up to be a carpenter.
So the walrus is the carpenter. But who's the Eggman? He goes on some manic diatribe relating the story of the walrus and the carpenter to his murder and cannibalism of his victims. Because the walrus and the carpenter lure the oysters to their demise and all, it's a clever premise that starts and stops right then and there. Yeah, we don't get any follow-up to this. It just begs the question, are the murders real or just a figment of Alice's delirious mind? Also, what the hell did that have to do with the rest of the plot? Oh, wait, I guess this one line relates to the Red Queen through line.
That is his undoing, as it will be hers.
Hers.
The rest of it was just theatrics, I suppose. But who is the Red Queen? Yeah, why hasn't she shown up in any of Alice's dreams yet? What kind of insane and twisted character will she turn out to be? Yeah, it's the grandma. It's so obviously the grandma that I'm not even gonna joke about spoiling it, because you probably knew that too, just from me explaining the plot to you. When she does finally show up in Alice's dreams, she challenges her to a game of cards, just like the Red Queen does in the wait a second. I'd hate to pull a actually here, but I think they meant the Queen of Hearts, not the Red Queen. The latter was a chess piece from Through the Looking Glass that helps Alice when she gets promoted from pawn to queen. The former was a playing card that did the whole off with his head bit. They're not the same person, regardless of what Tim Burton would have you believe. Anyway, Alice finally tries to escape, and after an incredibly long sequence of her stumbling her way downstairs, confronts Gran, who she's put together, thanks to her fever dreams, was slowly poisoning her with tea to gain her inheritance. Gam Gam even confesses to starting the fire that killed her parents. Alice surviving obviously wasn't part of that plan, so here she is. Wait, so what was up with this scene?
I wouldn't go anywhere near the woods. Not at this time of year. We have 6 acres, and there are poachers.
Or this scene. Was it a red herring? From the Red Queen? There's something there. And what does old Gammomo do now that she's been found out? She offers to play Alice at cards for the final lethal dose of poison. Of course. It makes too much sense, even. G-Unit wins at cards, gets distracted by a kitty, and then Alice pulls the old Sicilian. And Grandma finds it inconceivable. The hell kind of climax is that? You know, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, right? Because one of the labels for this movie is psychological. You know, like Total Recall and such. The lines between fiction and reality are blurred. Maybe Grandma's cartoony villain arc is still all a figment of Alice's imagination. She's meant to still be dreaming, maybe. Hopefully. Dear Lord, I hope she's still meant to be dreaming, because it's either that or just bad writing. And unfortunately, I'd buy that too. This movie is a mess writing-wise. The acting isn't great either, but I think that might be more a product of said bad writing.
Do you play?
Play what?
Cards.
I played with my friends. Not so much with...
With?
I played with my friend a lot.
I don't know, maybe they were going with a David Lynch angle, and the oddities in performance and awkward dialogue were intentional.
I want to wake up now.
But we haven't told you our story yet.
I'm not sure I want to hear it right now.
Don't you want to know how it happened? How he did it.
Who did that to you? What happened?
But if that were the case, it certainly isn't consistent enough to be convincing. I'm also just baffled by the cinematography in this movie. It's super claustrophobic. The whole movie is nothing but medium to extreme close-ups. There's no establishing shots to set the scene, or even cutaways that focus on something else in the scene.
Look at what a wonderful spread you've prepared.
She says, looking at a table we as the audience will never get to see. I mean, for all we know, there isn't even a fucking table there. And maybe the idea was to give off that dreamlike effect where details are fuzzy, but that still doesn't explain why it's like that even outside her dreams. Oh, and check out this sweet magic trick from the rabbit. The fuck is that? I do like the intro credit sequence for the movie. The kaleidoscope effect with the rising ambient music, that's cool. Kudos for that. Oh, and I definitely appreciate this random shot of a van driving down a road, because it's the only shot in the movie that lets you frickin' breathe. Even for a horror film, nothing's that scary or disturbing. The atmosphere is all over the place, and the film resorts to jump scares to get any kind of fear response out of the audience. There's no sense of danger because all of the danger is presented through obvious dream sequences, which is pretty bold of them to do. You could have easily presented the psychological angle by not making Alice's dreams so easy to distinguish from reality, and make the scares more organic and the unsettling perspective of phasing in and out of reality something we as the audience share with the main character. But instead, they relied on atmosphere, and then chose to shove the camera so close into the actors' faces that we get as little of that as possible. It's Alice in Wonderland. The horror angle should write itself, honestly. It's surreal and mysterious, full of chaotic characters that don't follow any real-world logic, but present themselves as childhood fables. Just look at Jan Svankmeyer's Alice. That shit haunts me, and I'm not even sure if it was meant to be scary. I don't know, maybe I'm just too dumb for this movie. My poo brain can't comprehend its cinematic genius. Maybe I'm looking at everything at face value, and I meant to look at things a bit deeper. Like this random shot of mold on the ceiling. Is that supposed to mean something? Is it black mold, of which long-term exposure can result in weakened immune system and cognitive impairment? Maybe it was just the mold that got Alice sick. Maybe she burned the place down because of it. Maybe her parents' house had black mold and she burned that down too. Mold is a fungus, and what else is a fungus? Mushrooms. What story has mushrooms in it? That's right, Alice in Wonderland. Maybe this shot is the key to solving the whole mystery. Or maybe the movie just fucking sucks. Hey, thanks for watching. I truly appreciate you sticking it out this far. I had a blast making this video, and I hope you enjoyed watching. I thought I'd give this kind of ending a try, since all the big boy channels are doing it anyway. If you like the video, be sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell. Is that still a thing? Supposedly it helps with receiving notifications when I upload a new video, so if you found this even the slightest bit entertaining, you should do that too. And that about covers all the shilling. Stay tuned for more spooky kids story adaptations. Ooh.